answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hansen and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth Financial's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
I'm Pat McClain.
Glad you're with us today as we talk about financial matters. Both myself and my co-host here, we are both practicing financial advisors, certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and we spend our weekdays with people like yourself and come here on the weekends to be your financial advisors on the air. And in all fairness, this intro, I think it just kind of evolved. No one ever thought about the intro, but say the same thing every week.
Every week.
But as I'm stating this, I was thinking, although we are practicing financial advisors, and we both started almost 30 years ago, working with clients on a daily basis, as the organization's grown to at 160 employees or whatnot.
We're not meeting with clients every day.
No. Let me rephrase that.
But we do still have clients. We are not actively, personally, ourselves, taking any new clients, but the 40... We
still maintain clients because it's helpful for us to
stay engaged. But the 47 advisors here at Allworth.
54, I think.
Is that... Okay.
I don't know. I'm making up numbers. It's right around there. Anyway.
We work with clients. Anyway, you get the story.
I was just trying to, as I was stating that, I'm thinking, I don't know if that's totally accurate. And one of the things that we value here at Allworth is transparency.
Most of the financial advice I've been giving, quite frankly, is to the radio friends and family.
Radio friends?
No, radio, friends and family. Don't you get approached on a regular basis by friends or family?
My next door neighbor is like a dental surgeon, some specialist of some sort. I would never think, though, of like going up, hey.
Could you look at this?
Yeah, I would never think of it. I would think, it's his home time, personal time. But I'm always amazed at people who,
does he approach you?
No, he doesn't. Then I would. What do you think of this? How about an implant? All right, let's get back to some financial matters.
Let's actually take some calls. Let's give out our phone number.
Yeah, and if you'd like
take some calls.
If you want to be part of the program, we'd love to take your call and hear what's on your mind. And really, we love. Sometimes people say, "Do you ever get a question that you can't answer?" And
yes,
every once in a while, but not terribly often. But every situation is unique. And the advice that we'd give to one person might be totally different than we'd give to another person who would look, by all other means, very similar. So if you've got a question or you're dealing with something about you're looking at retiring soon, or you're figuring out your retirement income, or which accounts do you pull the income from, or where do you hold growth assets versus income assets, or how should you be concerned about the stock market right now, whatever it might be, should you address your estate planning, should you have your kids listed as your beneficiaries on your large IRA, whatever the case may be, we'd love to take your question. And to join us, our contact number is 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Or 999-6784. So it's 833-999-6784. And if you're listening on a podcast, you can call at any time, and we'll actually schedule a time for you to talk with us on the air.
And that is exciting. So let's start off talking with Michelle. Michelle, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
So I have a couple questions. So my husband's been talking to me about reverse mortgage, and I just don't see the benefit in it. Kind of makes me nervous. I know that your family can still get the home. They can still maintain it after you pass away. But I wanted to know what the positives and negatives are against it. We currently own our home outright, probably valued about $1.5 million. We own 3 rentals, which should be paid off in the next 6 years when I plan to retire. We have our 401k. My husband will have a state retirement and probably have about $1 million in investments right now. But my husband's trying to tell me, hey, we should do a reverse mortgage.
Why?
Because he thinks you'll be getting a bunch of money in every month. having a reverse mortgage.
How old are
I
you?
want to know what the pros and the cons. I'm 53.
Oh, okay. So let's. And how old is he?
I know 53. So he's thinking in 6 years when you can do a reverse mortgage to do it.
It's 9 years. Yeah, the minimum age is 62.
At least for the government program. There's a couple private programs out there that are very small and they're not nearly as
in my
lucrative.
whole universe. And by the way, Scott and I, we sold a reverse mortgage company. What?
We believe reverse mortgages they can be a lifesaver for the right situation, but we like to think of them kind of as a
Last trip to the well.
right. So here's where they work great: 82-year-old widower. I mean, it's typically widow. Been in the same house for 38 years. Doesn't want to leave.
Oftentimes, most reverse mortgages, people owe money on the home, and they're
right.
trying to get rid of the monthly payment. And normally, there are not very many other assets involved in the financial situation. So it's like normally, 85 to 90% of the time, it is the final bit of equity or money that people can get to.
And they work wonderfully in the fact that just think of it, a reverse mortgage as a home equity line of credit, right? But rather than having to make interest payments each month, there's still an interest charge, but it accrues on itself. So if you take out a reverse mortgage, there's interest, and that loan balance is going to grow year after year after year. But presumably, the value of your home's going to grow over a long period of time.
But they're expensive.
Yeah,
They're more expensive. They're more expensive than a regular loan. In fact, I had an acquaintance of mine call me and ask me about reverse mortgages for his brother. He said, I'm thinking about my brother's kind of, and this guy has quite a bit of money. And I said, well, why don't you lend him the money and then put a lien on the house and put it into his will or trust that you get paid when he dies.
You just have the interest accumulate.
And the interest accumulate, and it's going to be less expensive for your brother and better for you because you'll get a higher rate of return than you're probably getting on bonds right now. And he did it. He's like, well, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But they're expensive. You, Michelle.
They're expensive unless you have no other options.
That's right.
Then they're cheap.
Then they're cheap, right?
Yeah.
But Michelle, I can't imagine a place where reverse mortgage would be less likely to be used than in your financial situation. Your husband's wrong.
Unless, and in the future, there's some other financial products, because you got quite a bit of equity in your home. You live in Sacramento. If you were in San Jose, you get a real basic home for $1.5 million. Sacramento, $1.5 million is a nice home, right? So,
but Scott, they have 3 rentals. He has a state pension. You have Social Security, I presume, is kicking in for you. You have a large amount of money in your 401k.
I
don't know what your husband's talking about. Yeah,
is your home paid off now?
Yeah, our home's paid off.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Again,
nice.
That's great because he will listen to your show. So
really nice.
I like the fact that he's exploring ideas.
Yes, thank you. He's exploring ideas.
Yeah.
And by the way, Pat, you might find some financial advisor who's shown some study that would say a reverse mortgage, you'd have to both be 62, a reverse mortgage, you can use it as the line of credit, and in down markets, it would make more sense to draw upon that. But that you can draw a spreadsheet that says just about anything you want, too. But we're all people. And anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not appropriate. So you had a second question for us, Michelle.
No, I think I'm good now.
Okay.
We're good. I'll call back in, but that was perfect.
Good.
So
Okay.
thanks, guys. I appreciate
You're doing everything right.
Yeah,
sounds like
you're
to
doing
me.
everything right. You are absolutely. And do you have children at home, or do you have children?
One grown and out, and 2 left going. One starting college next year, and one still in high school.
Yeah,
All right.
So, you're great savers. You're doing well. So keep it up.
Yeah, good luck to you, Michelle.
Great.
And so I was thinking, here's the other end of extreme for a reverse mortgage. So when Pat and I started this company in 2004 because not really of us, our clients had the need for it.
Almost the opposite.
It would be someone's parents, and you'd hear these stories. I've got my mom's, and And so we started doing some research, and at the time, reverse mortgages weren't very well known. They were misunderstood. I didn't understand them well.
I actually had I had a negative view of
As did
reverse
I.
mortgages, and then when I started researching them, I realized there was a place, and there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with the reverse mortgage. What was wrong was the reverse mortgage, in my opinion, the industry.
And a lot of people sold them. It was really low-end kind of people in the industry.
And a lot of
back
people were
then.
selling
Probably
them.
still today, but not as
They were
much.
selling them in order to get money out, in order to invest in
annuities,
annuities
yes.
in many cases.
But one of our first employees, you remember this, Pat?
Yeah.
His mother-in-law came to him. She was in her 80s, 83 or 84, and she had been losing some weight. And the family wasn't, they just thought, well, maybe it's just an age thing. And so she came to him and she says, hey, Steve, she said, can I talk to you about this reverse mortgage? Can I figure out how these things work? And so he started talking with her, and she had never shared any of her financial matters with any family member, which is very commmen, particularly older people.
Not
very
unusual at
private.
all.
Well, it turned out that she had racked up some credit card debt because her monthly income wasn't enough to cover expenses. And so when things like the water heater went out or whatnot, it all went on her credit card. And she got to the point where she had $30,000 or $40,000 in credit card debt. And she got to the stage where she could not get any more credit. And so now every month she had to make her monthly payments to the credit card companies. And her situation was so dire that when she ran out of money, she quit eating. And she literally rationed her food.
Which is sad, obviously.
Right. But she'd been in the same home. And studies have shown that a lot of people, they don't want to leave their home. And if you think
They
about
want
this,
to age in place. They call it aging in place.
and particularly if you're an elderly widow, you've lost so much in your life. What you still have is this home that you're familiar with. You know the people at the grocery store, the dry cleaners, the post office, the bank.
Your neighbors.
And the idea of going and suddenly moving to another community is terrifying to many. So a situation like that, she had her home paid off. Reverse mortgage, it probably, it might have saved her life.
Well,
Whatever.
It made it better.
That's where they're a wonderful product for someone in that situation.
And most
that's
people-
a totally opposite end of the spectrum from our previous caller, right?
Yes, correct.
Totally different situations, but really that is where a reverse mortgages really shine.
But you've got to understand, if you're going to do a reverse mortgage, you should plan on being in that house the rest of your life. That you shouldn't plan on moving, and you shouldn't take one out early in your life just in order to get a higher quality of life. Like, don't do a reverse
At
mortgage
62, so you
to
can go
buy
to
an
cruise.
RV. That's a bad idea.
I remember seeing somebody who they were, one of the spouses was under 62. They took them off title, and I remember talking to this person. I said, I think I strongly suggest against that. That is horrible.
You did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
All right. If you want to join our show, we'd love to take your call. The number to reach us here at Allworth is 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH. Numerically, it's 833-999-6784. And we're in Colorado talking with John. John, you're with Allworth Financial.
Hello.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
We're good. You're here with Scott and Pat. How
What
can
can we
help?
do for you?
Well, what I'm wondering is if you're carrying a lot of credit card debt and you have, around like $40,000 and you've got that in a money market account, but I also am looking at redoing my home loan, would it be smarter to pay it off out of the money market or put it into your home loan? Because some people have said it's going to take you longer to save that money back.
I don't know what that means.
What?
No idea. It takes you longer to save that money back. You have no money. You have a liability on one side of the balance sheet of $40,000, and you have an asset on the other side of the balance sheet that's $40,000. And if you wash the two, there's nothing left, right?
Right.
So what you then look at is cost of money and liquidity needs. And the cost of money on a credit card is relatively high, and the return on the money in a bank account or money market is relatively low. And in fact, you could have a cost of money at 10% or 11%, and you could be earning 1%. So carrying that liability may cost you as much as $4,000 to $5,000 a year by just having the liquidity. Now, in saying that, you should pay it off. Just pay it off, right? Unless you have some pressing liquidity needs. So how old are you?
55.
Okay, and how much other money do you have? Do you have money in a 401k or an IRA or brokerage account or anywhere else?
Very, very little other monies here and there. Probably a total of about maybe 40,000 as well, kind of scattered about.
Okay,
And then what's your home worth and what's the balance on it? The mortgage balance.
Home worth is about 600 and balance is about 295.
Yeah, I would not.
What's the interest rate on the mortgage?
Mortgage is right around 5.
Yeah. So you pay off the credit cards. Your credit rating in and of itself will go up as a result of that because you paid off those debts, and then get this thing refinanced.
Yeah, and you might find that if you call the bank to refinance it, they may just lower the interest rate for you. And we're going to talk about that a little later on this show about how banks have actually just started lowering interest rates, or lenders have lowered interest rates when people request it. So pay it off immediately and refinance immediately. Both of those.
Yeah, I hear these ads. Yeah, John, pay it off, and we appreciate the call.
And when you pay it off, put it on a 15-year loan and make those payments in order to get it paid off in 15 years so that the time you retire, the home is paid for.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the best thing. And matter of fact, if you can swing it in 10 or 12 years.
Even better.
Yeah, to amortize it at the time of retirement. And I hear these, and appreciate the call, John. I hear these ads for mortgages, and they talk about saving your money, reducing your payments, and they want to roll in all these additional dollars in your home mortgage. And look, we've been doing this a long time, and I've talked to people who come in, they want to retire. They've been in the same house for 35 years, and they have that they paid,
$50,000
or
for
less,
and they owe $200,000 on the home because they spent their home again and again and again. They spent it.
And the challenge is, you get to retirement age, you're gonna now you've got this additional monthly payment that you didn't have 35 years ago.
Think about this: in retirement, money not going out is exactly the same as money coming in. If I don't have a $2,000 a month payment or a $1,500 a month payment going out, it's the equivalent of having $1,500 to $2,000 a month coming in, which is why we like our clients to go into retirement without any debt, especially on their home.
90% of the time. I mean, there's always exceptions to that.
And if you go into retirement and you owe on your home, you might want to get as long a mortgage as possible in order to keep your payments as low as possible.
Yes. So on loan modification, because what's amazing to me is how low interest rates are. You realize this last week, Greece.
Yes.
Right? The country of Greece. Remember, it was a few years ago they needed bailout from the European Union, and it looked like Greece was. They talked about the pigs, Portugal,
Ireland, Greece, and Spain.
Was it Ireland or Italy they threw in there?
It was Italy.
Portugal. I haven't even read that anywhere in years.
Yeah, they called them the pigs, which
Yeah.
isn't very nice.
No, but there was concern that these were going to default. And interest rates became sky high because of the risk there. I remember I was on I chaired an investment committee for a community foundation. And I remember a couple of the board members reached out because deep in one of the portfolios was a little bit of, I think it was a Portuguese note, and they were concerned about it and all. It's funny how things change quickly. And whatever crisis is happening, people think this is going to continue forever and whatnot. Greece this last week went to their interest rates on their 3-month bonds into negative territory.
Which is unbelievable because it wasn't that long ago that they were paying 10 and 12 and 14% on those bonds. It wasn't that long ago.
And their structural
And by the
problems
way,
have not.
It hasn't gotten any better.
No, I know.
I was in Greece.
Oh, of course you were. Last week, when? I was in Greece.
You're gonna make fun of me?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was in Greece last, when I was sitting at the Parthenon getting
I did go to the
another cup of coffee
I did go to
and some olives.
I did go to the Parthenon.
Okay.
The cradle of civilization, Scott. The bastion of philosophy.
Okay.
Greece.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking to the locals, there is not.
And when were you there?
Last summer.
Just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm sure how much we talk.
Was it last summer? No, summer before. Last year. It struggled. There was no recovery.
No,
It hasn't
unemployment's
taken
still high.
yeah.
Youth unemployment is terrible.
Tax. You know,
The pension is a mess.
When I was there, someone had told me that there was more people that own yachts that are citizens of Greece than pay taxes on $1 million in income. I'm like, you're kidding.
Oh, no one pays their taxes. They all
No one
cheat
pay-
them. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they all cheat, but
Okay.
it's fairly. Anyway, so
But it's a societal, it's a cultural thing.
it's
there.
cultural.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm not saying they're bad or immoral people by not paying their. It's just a different, culturally very different. But we can't hit where interest rates are so low right now in the world that investors are willing to loan Greece money at a negative interest rate.
Which is crazy.
But if they're willing to loan Greece money at a negative interest rate,
They won't.
they'll loan you money on your house at a very low rate as well.
Yeah.
Not negative, but pretty low. In the United States, rates are pretty dang low.
You got to wonder if it will ever get that low on a home loan, like 1%.
Was it in Finland or
Oh, it was.
was it Finland?
Where they went negative on these home mortgages?
Yeah.
Yeah, a number of weeks ago.
And I don't know if it was
They-
actually really happening.
because they could just pump them full of fees. But
Yes.
let's talk about what you could do with your own home loan.
Yeah. And this happened. I had a friend of mine. He said he was going
You're
to
bragging now? About
I have 4.
4 friends? The average American only has 15 friends.
Thank you for that useful bit of information there, Pat.
The average American has.
As I've told my kids, you're fortunate if you go through life with 2 or 3 close friends. That's really, if you can have 1 or 2 close friends, you are a very lucky person.
Oh,
And you'll have friendships in the same relation to you are a friend to somebody. So if you want a lot of friends, be a good friend to many people.
All right, thank you, Dr. Laura.
And go to sleep early because schools. All right.
Okay.
My friend was telling me he was going to refinance because rates have gotten low. I mean, they're 3.5% on a lot of these 30-year
This
loans.
gentleman just called. He had a 5% mortgage.
Yeah. Well, this guy had, I don't know if he had bought his house or he had refinanced. So he called he called the I don't know if his bank or credit union had it and said he was going to be refinanced. And then the guy said, "Don't bother. We'll just lower your rate. We'll remodify your rate on it."
Which makes sense. If
Yeah,
they're
so-
holding the loan.
And that was kind of really. And so I did a little research on it. And so this is what is happening right now. Particularly if the lender still holds the loan, if you got a loan through a credit union or a bank, if they still hold the loan, they're very well likely will just go ahead and lower the rate for you.
Because it sits in their portfolio and they have the luxury of lowering that. And they'd rather keep you in the portfolio at a lower interest rate than go out and acquire a new one.
Yeah, but we're seeing these happen, and some charge a fee for it. So here's one organization, they'll charge you some fee, but it's less. You don't have to go through the whole process of refinance. So I would say before you go through the whole entire process of refinancing, contact your existing lender and say, hey, look, I'm going to be refinancing, but rather than refinancing, I think I'd give you guys have a shot of just modifying my loan. Would you modify my loan? If so, I'll keep it with you. If not, it's been nice knowing you.
Yeah, and see what they say. What's the downside?
I mean, if you've got a rate of 4% or more, it's worth having the call.
Yeah, there's no downside in it.
They might not like you as much, but they're not a friend anyway based upon your 15 friends. So who cares whether they like you or not? But yeah,
And if your interest rate is higher than 4, you should explore refinancing right now.
That is hard to believe that we're in an era when we say if your interest rate
Well, think about it. Think about it if you're a saver, right? Or an investor, how hard it is on the other side of it.
Well, if right now people, if we're telling people if you got good credit, don't pay anything more than 4% on a loan. If you're an investor and you're going to go out and buy some fixed income product, a bond or bond fund, or you're in the same. So
don't stretch for yield too much, right? People have a tendency to stretch for yield.
Otherwise, you end up just investing. You're buying
garbage.
Of the people that,
or even a high dividend paying stock. Like, I want something that's high. There's a reason it's paying a high dividend. You could have bought GE a couple years ago. And after the side of the break,
PG&E.
Let's talk about General Electric, GE, and what they're doing with their pension plan after the break.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the radio parlance. That's called a teaser.
Yeah, because that's exciting. Well, if you have a pension, something like this could impact you as well. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll take some more calls. To join us, 833-99-WORTH. This is Allworth's Money Matters.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast. Do you have a financial question that needs answering? Call us at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen.
Pat McClain.
And if you want to join our program, love to take your call, answer your question that you might bring our way. Our number to join us, 833-99-WORTH. And numerically, it's 833-999-6784.
And if you're listening to this on a podcast, if you'd be so kind as to review the show.
Give us a review.
Please. I'm asking. Please review the
Yes.
show. And the reason is the more reviews we get, the better. The higher your rankings, the more people listen because you're ranked higher. And then at some point in time, we're going to figure out how to monetize this podcast, and we're going to get super rich from it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
We're going to get advertisers.
After 23 years.
We're going to get advertisers on
24 years. 24
Is that
years.
how long it's been?
We've been doing the program 24 years. And hopefully we're a little better than we were the first year. Anyway, let's join the phones here. We're going to start off here in Sacramento. We're talking with Gary. Gary, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
So got a scenario here. It's I'm in the process of rolling over a 401k to a rollover IRA. I'm moving jobs, so I'm bringing that stuff out of Fidelity and landed in Vanguard.
All right.
I've got choices of ETFs or mutual funds, and the funds are relatively the same, mid-cap, small-cap, large-cap type.
Well, you have
funds.
pretty much unlimited if you're in a brokerage account, right? Anything you want.
Absolutely. So I've selected them, but the ETFs have various scenarios that mutual funds don't. So mutual funds cost more, but trade once a day. ETFs cost less and trade, like a regular stock. Is there any particular advantage between the two that would be worth paying more for the mutual fund?
No.
Okay. And in fact, what you just said, that mutual funds cost more and ETFs cost less, may or may not be true, depending upon what the institution issuing those are.
But if you're looking, for example, for an index, or let me rephrase that, a portfolio that mimics some index and tries to track that index, you should care most about cost.
That's all you should actually care about.
Okay, so look at those percentages, shoot for lowest. So given
And
that,
who cares about how often it's going to trade? I mean, here's what, it's interesting. So ETFs are very low cost, very efficient way for people to buy a basket of securities that typically track indexes. There's a little bit in managed, but not very many. But people use these to somehow trade, and they put these asset allocations together, and they think, well, they believe that I'm not smart enough to buy individual securities and outperform the market, so I'm going to buy indexes. But somehow they believe that they're going to be able to do all this trading amongst the indexes.
And beat the market.
And get excess return. Right. I find it intellectually dishonest.
So that leads me to my next question. There is an entire market, if I can throw out the fund names, VTSAX. But historically, based upon your guys' direction on the radio show, I've done about a third large cap, third mid cap, third small cap. And looking at the
I don't know if we would.
We wouldn't have given that.
Well, roughly, just what I've heard on the radio stuff. So I know you guys aren't specifically saying that, but it's typically what I typically run. So looking at those three funds versus an entire market, it appears that at least with the 1, 5, 10 lifetime rate of return values that they have, that I can slightly beat their entire market VTSX by investing in those three funds.
That's right. And do you know why?
That's why I'm asking you
because you're not actually you're not mimicking the entire market,
the total stock market.
You're not. You've overweighted mid cap and small cap in a third, which would actually over a long period of time typically overperforms large cap. But the cost of doing that is the volatility in the mid and the small cap. So when you say a third, and then compare it to
75, 15, 10, which is essentially the total stock market.
It's not a fair comparison, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's not a bad idea for you to do a third. Just recognize that the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year volatility will be much greater than a portfolio with a total market.
Awesome. I knew there was something off, and I just couldn't quite get it. But I failed to realize that it's not a third mid cap or a third small cap in a general overall market.
And it might be the appropriate portfolio for you. Just keep in mind that the biggest risk here is not the markets; it's Gary, and it's after a couple years when mid caps are underperforming or small caps are underperforming, and you're like, man, look at this total stock market index. I'm underperforming. Forget it. I'm through with this. I'm moving to the total stock market or whatever it might be. That's what tends to happen. If you look at studies over a long period of time, investors do worse than the indexes. And it's not because they own, well, sometimes they own expensive funds, which is why, but it's because they tend to make decisions at the wrong time. They make the wrong decision because they see something underperforming and they think, oh, wait a minute, this is underperforming. I should get rid of my losers and buy my winners, which is not helpful.
Okay. Well, you nailed it. I appreciate the insight.
Right.
I completely missed the percentages on that.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Yeah, good. Thanks, Gary. Yeah. And I think Gary's a perfect example of somebody who does not need a financial advisor.
Well, he doesn't need someone for asset allocation. He may need a financial advisor.
The financial planning.
Yeah, the psychology that goes around it, how to deal with the family, what happens.
You got to thank you very. Yeah.
And remember, there's a difference between financial planning and how to allocate a portfolio. Financial planning includes allocating a portfolio, but allocating a portfolio doesn't include financial planning.
And part of it is which assets do you have and which types of plans? How do you do with your withdrawal strategy? How much should you put in a Roth? What should you how do you get the home paid off? All those things.
I think we act as each other's financial planners. Right before we actually went on the air today, we were discussing a financial situation on a personal basis.
That's right.
Right? Between the two of us. And so we act as each other's.
Well, we're fortunate enough to, one, have a lot of years of experience in this industry. There's a lot of things I don't know much about at all.
Yes.
Most of life I know very little about, and it's quite. And I realize that when I'm talking with an expert or I'm listening to a podcast or a radio program on whatever it might be, a different field than I'm in, and I'm like, whoa, I know very little about that.
So, but most people could use a good financial planner. Most people. The problem is it's really hard to find a good financial planner
because they all look the same. I was talking this last week to the. I don't know if he's the CEO of the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, or he was like the top guy at the CFP, the Chartered Certified Financial Planner, the ads and the sort of
Really?
stuff. Yeah.
Did you did you voice some concerns?
Well, he approached me. They were trying to raise money for this initiative to do something or another, and someone had approached me before, and there's a few issues I've got, and basically my issues with the CFP board has to do with their standards not being high enough.
Or enforcing the ones they have.
Yeah, because there are people out there that sell all kinds of garbage products that are certified financial planners. It's one screen. It's not the only screen by any means. It's one of many screens. Because just because someone has a certified financial planner, just because someone's an MD,
Doesn't make them.
you'd say, "Oh, can you give me heart surgery? I see you're an MD here. You must be great."
Yeah.
Of course, you wouldn't do that.
So anyway, so you talked to this guy from this Certified Financial Planner Board.
Yes. And what?
I just wanted to know, maybe off air, you can share with me what
Off air. I'm not going to share anything anyway.
Did you give him any money?
No.
Because you're like, I think you guys could do a better job enforcing.
I shared to him. Here's the areas that I think that you guys need to improve.
Yeah.
I don't think you're the same. You're not the same standard as a CPA.
And I'm not a CFP I'm a chartered financial consultant, which is
CHFC.
Whatever it is. It's not, doesn't make you either good or bad.
Well, originally, and we'll get back to the calls, by the way.
There were two paths you could take.
Yes. So we've been in this industry a long time. When I was in undergrad school, I took, at the time, I think it was 6 different courses to become a certified financial planner. I chose to go towards a minor in economics rather than taking all 6 modules. And I thought once I'm done, I needed 2 more. I'll just go get the 2 more. And at the time, for whatever reason, they said, no, those aren't going to qualify. You're going to have to take all 6 courses again. And I'm like, well, forget that. And this CHFC, Chartered Financial Consultant Program, had something else where it was...
They give you credit for it?
I got some sort of credit for it. So it was just a lot easier for me to get that.
So you have a CFP and a CHFC.
Yes. And the reason I got a CFP is for public perception. I'll be totally right out here.
I remember because people wouldn't want to quote you with the...
I worked with a reporter of the Wall Street Journal on several articles on pension issues. This is when in the 90s when companies were kind of getting rid of their pensions. And I was kind of an expert on those things at the time. I think I still might be, but I would help this reporter, and every once in a while she'd include me, a quote for me somewhere. And she says, Scott, I'm going to be at a panel at the CFP board's annual retreat, whatever it is. You should be there with me. Are you going to be there? You should be on that panel with me. And I said, I'm not going to be there. She says, why not? I said, well, I'm not a CFP. Long pause. Oh. I got my CFP very quickly after that. But in all fairness, truthfully, it was more out of perception than anything.
Then
it was quite easy for me to get at the time. I'd been in the industry, et cetera. But I don't know why we went down this tangent.
But it did remind me.
But I think it's, look, the vast majority, our advisors all have some sort of designation of some degree of some sort. Designation, continued education. The vast majority are certified financial planners. There's also some accredited, some of this or that, some other organizations that give them others. Having some designation, I think, is important.
Yes.
With your advice.
But actually, so let's take this call, and then I want to talk a little bit about the changes in pensions.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a big deal, and we promised we'd talk about it.
833-99-WORTH is the number. We are in Colorado with Patrick. Patrick, are you with Allworth Money Matters?
How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
What can we do for you?
All right. I'll try to make it short. My father just passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And, he wasn't sick. It was sudden, and it's all crazy,
Okay. Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Got me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, so his mom, my grandma, set up a trust that he was the trustee, that when he would pass away, it gets split between me and my sister.
And his grandma passed away, or is she still alive?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Okay.
my dad has been a trustee for X amount of years, and the trust would allocate. He basically had like an allowance.
Mm-hmm.
So the trust was his, right? But it's when he passes, it's me and my sister's.
Okay.
So now, along with dealing with him dying and everything that goes along with it, I have this whole situation. And to go even further back, when I turned 21, I got some like an inheritance, and it's all gone. Everything's gone. Various mistakes I made over the years.
For the inheritance that you received at 21. How old are you today?
Yeah, 42.
Okay. All right. Well,
So,
let's
at about about 21, I got about $800,000. My dad sat me down with this financial guy with Merrill Lynch and said, "This is where your money's going to go. It'll never go away. If you're really smart about it, you'll never have to work a day in your life." That probably wasn't the best advice to give a 21-year-old.
Yeah, terrible advice, actually.
Don't work. Yeah, that's a
Terrible advice. Terrible advice.
But, I did a few things over the years. I invested in a snowboard company. I did this and that, and then
But that's
it was
behind us
gone.
now. I understand that.
That's behind us. But now here we are. It's like I have, I basically went from 800,000 to nothing,
Mhm.
and then so I had to start over. And
Yeah.
obviously, I'm not the keenest with this stuff, but I want to be now.
Yes, of
Now-
course.
Patrick, do you have a job?
Yeah, I'm a small business owner.
Okay, and what's your approximate income?
Around not that much, like 35,000 a year.
Married?
No,
Okay.
I have a 15-year-old boy,
Okay.
single, living in a two-bedroom apartment.
Okay,
and
and how
I'm
much
about-
money? How much money is your half of the trust?
Third.
About 600,000.
Okay, so it's a third. So it's whatever you'll receive is about 600,000. There's a good chance
Yeah.
you're going to pay taxes on any of the gains in this trust. Sounds like from the way that it was structured.
Yes.
Well, there's like a trustee, so it goes. I talked to this guy, and he kind of explained it. I'm not just going to get it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's going to take a little bit of time, and then I have to go to the IRS. So the taxes will all, I think, be taken care of before my sister and I get it.
Okay.
And then from there, I guess where I'm going with this is I don't want to make the same mistakes
Yes.
I
Yep.
did before.
Yep.
I've learned how to live with money, and I've learned how to literally live with $20 for the week.
Your attitude is great because you're a little bit afraid of yourself, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, we're all human, right? We all have
we're
strengths and weaknesses. That's reality.
Right.
And I'll share some personal, just from the way I set up my trust for my children, if I were to die, is that it paid out over a 15-year period, over a third. And the reason I did that is because I expect that the kids will make bad decisions with the first third of the money
And we'll
that
learn
they
about
receive, and we'll learn from
Right.
it, right?
Right.
And hopefully,
Well,
And the final third is way out there, so even if they don't learn off the second one, they're still good.
then there's still another shot at it. So
Yeah.
what you really need to do is sit down with a quality advisor and put a plan in place.
A plan.
Not just an investment plan,
Not-
but a
yeah.
distribution
That
plan
investment's
and an
not-
education plan for your son. So if you think your
Right.
son's going to go to college, should we set money aside for that? How much should we set aside for that? And we should tell our son, hey, listen, I'm going to put 15 grand or 10 grand a year for you to go
And
to college.
do we buy a house
Do we buy a house and then
or a condo or something?
pay cash for the house, and then you continue your job and you have no rent and there is no distribution from this, or maybe there's only $1,000 or $1,500
Or
a
no
month,
distribution
or
from
no
this.
distribution at all. But
Secure
the
your-
point being,
that's obviously I want what's there to. Yes, obviously now my life will be a little more comfortable, but I don't want to get. I want it to.
You don't want to get
multiply,
10
not-
years
not-
down.
I want,
Yeah,
I want to multiply, not subtract.
Go back to zero.
I
again.
can hear it in your voice that I can hear it in your voice that you messed it up in your mind. You messed it up once before. You don't want to do it again. And before,
Yeah.
when they sat down, you said the guy gave me bad advice by saying that, hey, you probably don't have to work again, and you've made bad investments and you've spent poorly. That doesn't happen to happen.
It was a guy with Merrill Lynch, and he looked me in my eyes and said, if the whole financial institution collapses, Merrill Lynch will still be standing. We all know what happened.
He didn't say that. Did he say
He
that?
did.
You know
said
what's
Merrill
funny?
Lynch
Like an old
around
school
forever.
stockbroker.
You know, it's funny because 2 weeks before Merrill Lynch collapsed, we were on this radio show saying, Merrill Lynch might be the next to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now,
Yeah.
that
So,
guy's tired.
the
whatever.
investments aren't the problem, right?
He might have had a bad. He might have had a bad advisor.
Understand, but going forward,
Right.
the investments won't be the problem. it will be the plan and the discipline to stick to it.
That's right.
That is going to be the issue. So,
and everything's got a trade-off, right? So if you say, I'm going to have some money set aside for my son's education, if that's something you want to do, there's a trade-off for that. If you say, I'm going to go buy a house or a condo or a townhouse or something today, there's a trade-off for that. If you say, I want to have some certain...
What's the trade-off?
Trade-off means there's less money available for investments if you go out and buy a $300,000. I know this. If you were my brother, it'd be kind of weird because we're both named Patrick.
I know.
but beside that, if you were my brother, I would do this. I could tell you exactly what I would do. I would go out and I'd buy a condominium that is similar in size and quality of the house that you're living in now, or that you said you're renting an apartment. And then I would put maybe $30,000 to $40,000 aside for my child's education in college, and I'd let them know, look, here's $10,000. This is all that's coming out. You're going to have to go to school in Boulder. You're going to go to local college or junior college, and the rest of it I would take and I would invest it in a portfolio that was 70% stocks and 30% bonds, cash, and a little bit
not
of
individual stocks, but
in mutual funds and ETFs
for your retirement.
And I might do a distribution of $500 a month just to pay the taxes and the upkeep on the condo, and then I wouldn't plan on touching it until you were 65. And that's how I would do it. If you were my brother, that is exactly the plan I would put together.
I should slowly be converting things into a Roth. I do the maximum Roth contribution each year.
Yep. In order to, and that's a financial plan, right? And an asset allocation.
That sounds great and all, but with like how much I make.
What do you mean? How much you make?
I'm barely getting by.
Understand,
right, but we're getting rid of your rent.
We're getting rid of your rent, and you've lived barely getting by for years.
This isn't $6 million.
It's not enough for you to retire on.
No. I know that.
So that maybe we do a distribution of $500 a month, but it's not going to solve.
But how much is your rent now?
Rent is $1,525.
There you go.
So we got rid of your rent.
We got rid of your rent. You're going to make $1,500 more a month.
I'd rather see you get rid of your rent by owning something that's not going to be zero because you have property taxes. You're going to have upkeep on it, so you're going to have to figure around that. But I'd much rather see you get rid of your rent because the challenge, Patrick, is inflation. And what happens when that rent is $2,000 or $2,500 or $3,000?
So what you're going to do is you're part of securing a good retirement and protecting you from yourself is to buy a house.
That would be the first with cash.
Had you bought a house when you inherited the money the first time,
kind of hard to spend.
It's really hard to spend. You've got to go through a lot of process. You got to think about it. It wasn't in your stockbroker's best interest, his best interest, to have you buy a house because there's less money to invest if you buy a house. But I'm telling you, as your brother, because I started this by saying, Patrick, if you were my brother, this is what I would tell you to do. This is how we would do it.
That's crossed my mind many times.
So
the housing market where I live, where I'm at in Colorado, I mean, it's it's a no-brainer, you know, and kind of like.
Well, we don't know whether it's a no-brainer or not, but we do know is that your rent reflects the housing market. So, Patrick, call. I'm going to plug our firm because I know that they'll
someone will care and give you the same good advice.
Same advice, right? So call our firm and schedule an appointment with one of our. We have 3 advisors, I think, in Denver
area.
In the Denver area, throughout the Denver area. Call our firm, sit down with one of the advisors, tell them about our conversation. They're going to give you the same advice I gave you, and it's going to be in your best interest.
I think part of what would be helpful is to understand, okay, if I do this, what's this mean to me? Right?
In the long term.
Because you could invest the full $600,000 and start taking a monthly income from it, but you've got the mortgage.
Yeah.
I mean, the rent. So what's the point?
I wouldn't do that.
No.
I wouldn't do that.
And the biggest danger with investments, it's not the economy or the financial markets. It's the investor and how the investor reacts.
Unless you're buying investing in a small snowboard company or something like that, which is not really investing as much as it is speculating.
Yeah. So anyway, good luck to you, Patrick. Wish you well. So GE and their pension.
Oh, look at this. Don't think that this can't happen to you from any company. Actually.
So what happened?
So they came back and said all the employees that are accumulating pensions under this formula that's been around for years and years, we're changing that. The accumulation changes. So we're going to freeze what you've received today.
You're 52. You're planning on your retirement when you hit age 60.
Yeah, and we're going to convert your new contributions. We're going to put a little bit more into your company 401k. So it moves from what's called a defined benefit plan,
like a pension, like a state pension, like a government pension,
to a defined contribution plan, which means that they're just going to give you a little bit of money and then you're responsible for investing it. So it's a big deal for the existing employees. Then they go back to many of the retirees and they're giving them a lump sum option, which is a very, very difficult decision to make, whether you continue to take the company pension or you take a lump sum. And the reason is, if the company ever goes into bankruptcy, right, and they will discharge that monthly pension and it will be turned over to the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation.
Which there's limits, just like there's FDIC limits.
And so you need
CDs,
to understand what that risk is. And if you have a monthly pension that's significantly higher than what the PBGC would pay, the lump sum may make sense for you. But you have to go through the calculation, and you have to be real with yourself. What's my life expectancy look like? What other assets do I have? Do I want to take these risks? How do I manage around that? So what may be good for your coworker who retired with you to take the lump sum may not be good for you. It just depends on.
But you should go through that calculation. And
the PBGC. So if you talk to a United Airlines pilot that retired 15 years, 20, 30 years ago, they went through the same thing. Ask them what happened.
Yeah, that wasn't good for them. And so go talk. If you are a GE retiree facing this, go talk with a financial advisor who works in these areas. It's one of the things that Allworth advisors have done for years, but go find one for yourself. I think it'd be helpful. We're out of time, unfortunately. We're here every week at this same station, this same time. And, of course, we're also available via podcast where you ever get your podcast. So thanks so much for being part of Allworth's Money Matters. We'll see you next week.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.